Welcome, everyone. We're going to get started in just a minute. We have a lot of attendees today. Again, if you're just joining us, we're going to get started in just a minute. We're letting everyone log on. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome, everyone, to the Pre-Solicitation Conference for Deliverables-Based Information Technology Services, otherwise known as DBITS. Before we get started, can everybody please raise their hand to confirm that they can hear me? Perfect. Thank you all so much. Next, I would like to remind everyone that you can switch between your computer audio and your phone call. The attendees will be muted today, and if you have any questions, please submit them in the Q&A. Next, we're going to go over the introduction of speakers. We have Stephanie, who is the director. She is not with us today, but she is the director. Then we have Vanya. Then we have Marie. We have Julia. We have Teresa and me, Brianna Ballinger. Next, we're going to go over the agenda. We're going to go over the RFO overview, the RFO contents, the RFO scope, evaluation criteria, the addendum, terms of contracts, schedule, hub, accessibility. Then we're going to go over general information, bid stamp, vendor information system portal, mandatory submissions. We're going to try to have a break, and then we're going to go over questions and closing remarks. Now I will turn it over to Vanya. Vanya, are you available?
Let's do that again.
There we go.
Hello, everybody. I'm Vanya Raymakers, and I am the procurement lead for the solicitation. I understand that due to our schedule, we started this back in October or November. We were supposed to be posted in December. We had some delays, and there was plenty of reasons why, and we are going to address them. Mainly want you all to know that the legislative's in session. This RFO is a big deal, and there are going to be changes to the addendum coming up. I'm going to post an addendum as soon as I can after this meeting because of some of the legislative requirements that have changed. And we're going to discuss that throughout the day, but let's just go over the RFO overview for some of you that have not watched the YouTube videos and the information that was previously provided to you guys to get you started. So the objective of this solicitation is for us to acquire vendors to do deliverable-based contracts that has 4 different categories, and we are going to discuss each and every one of them with you. Now, this is a very important to understand is a master cooperative contract that we are seeking to enter into with several vendors. DIR manages master contracts for our customers, which are lots of them. And it is important to know that DIR is not buying anything through this solicitation. So the reason I'm making that clear is because of some of the questions that have come across my desk this past few weeks. So for those that are current DIR vendors, this is a resolicitation of RFO 553, which was done a few years back. It's very important for current vendors to understand that this is a resolicitation. So having a current contract does not put any vendors in any advantage over any other vendors. This is resolicitation, which means everybody's back to square one, and we all follow the rules in order to everybody be compliant with the solicitation requirements, okay? So it's very important to know this. DIR is going to do multiple awards for this solicitation, so it's very important to know that as well. Next slide, please. So here we go. Our overview covers how much money the cooperative procurement program makes so that you can understand our marketing. We have assistant organizations. We have higher education, K through 12, local government, out-of-state government. State agencies is our focus customer base because that's what the legislator have mandated DIR to do, to establish master contracts for state agencies to use to purchase technology. However, we do have expanded our customer base incredibly through several markets and also out-of-state customers. So as you can see the numbers here, DIR in 2024 has done $3.4 billion in business on technology, okay? This is our entire cooperative program contracts, not just DBITS. This is our biggest, encompass the entire cooperative program. Next slide. Now here's where we talk about DBITS sales so that you can know what you are looking forward to in volume in sales. You can see that our customers use these contracts quite a bit. We have combined the categories into 4 groups to make it easier for you guys and to also combine things that are alike so we don't have too many categories under the solicitation awards, okay? And for those that are asking, yes, you can only propose 1 category, or you can propose all 4, or you can propose 2 or 3, okay? There is no such thing as you have to propose it all to qualify or propose one or the other. It's your choice what categories you are going to propose under the solicitation. But take a look at application development, and the numbers here are pretty large. So there's a lot of business out there to be have, okay? Next. So let's talk about the RFO contents. For those of you that have not gone to the ESBD and downloaded your documents, when you do, this is what you're gonna do. Go ahead, next slide. So here we are, we have the RFO document, which is the master that provides all the information you guys need to how to respond to the RFO. And then you are going to download 9 different exhibits. Each one of these has a purpose, and you must read and understand each and every one of them. So you should have an Exhibit A, respondent information. And by the way, Exhibit A is going to be replaced by Addendum 1 due to the legislative requirement for Executive Order 48. So heads up, that one is one of the big changes. Exhibit A1 is for exceptions to our terms and conditions. Please do not take exception to the RFO language. That is not an option. This is exceptions from our terms and conditions. B, Exhibit B is your respondent history and experience. Exhibit C is your contract management and support plan. Now, for vendors that are current with DIR, Exhibit C have changed quite a bit for the DBITS contract. The main reason is our customers want us to also work with the vendors about not just marketing their business, but how you're going to support our customers once your projects are completed, so that they have somebody to reach out to, support, and you have to stay with them until they no longer need you. So they really want to make sure you're going to be around. That's what the Appendix C has changed, Exhibit C, okay? Exhibit D is your hub subcontracting plan, and you will have a whole section, and Teresa's going to tell you all that you need to do step by step. But I want to make sure I mention something here. When you download Exhibit D from this RFO package, it is a sample. Do not fill out this form and do not submit it with your response. You will fail hub. You must go to the CPA website and download the latest hub form. I want to make sure we all understand that, okay? Exhibit E is your reference form. You will send that to your customers. You will fill it out. And by the way, some of you already told me that the date on the Exhibit E reference is from the old RFO timeline, not the new one. The old means the one that I was going to post December 9th. But you all can make a change to that form, because you got to fill out the section, top section of it before you send it to your customer. Change the due date to April 29 instead of February 4th, okay? I will put a new form out there with addendum 1, but if you want not to wait for that revision, you can change the form yourself. Exhibit F is your release of liability, means everybody that you're going to submit as a reference, we need a release of liability for us to be able to talk to those people if we choose so, okay? Exhibit G is your accessibility form, PDAA. This is going to be taught to you by Marie. She's here, and she's going to tell you all about accessibility. I want to make sure you pay attention, because this form can either keep you on the evaluation or kick you out altogether. This is a pass or fail form, must be submitted. There is no room for anybody to say, oh, I forgot, or I'm so sorry, or we loaded the wrong form, or we loaded the empty form. Sorry, guys. This is a solicitation, and requirements mean something. And if this is not on your response originally when you submit it on time, you will be disqualified, okay? So please pay attention to what Marie has to say and fill out this form completely before submitting. Exhibit H is the Vendor Accessibility Development Services, or the short version is called VADSER. Marie is going to talk about that one, and that one is for vendors that are proposing development category only. So some of you, if you're not proposing category 1 development, you do not need to fill out this form, okay? Next slide. Now, here are the other documents that are part of the document set of the solicitation. Attachment 1 is our sample contract. This is not for you to fill out, and it is not for you to sign, and is not for you to submit with your response. This is for you to get familiar with what your contract document is going to look like. And if there's any language in that contract that you want to take exception to, you can do so. Attachment 2 is our standard terms and conditions. Heads up, because the legislature is in session, standard terms and conditions may change between now and when this solicitation opens. If that is the case and the legislature make major changes that require this document to be updated, we will extend the opening line, the open of the RFO, to give everybody a chance to review the document. We don't know if it's going to happen or not, but we want you to be aware that we're in the middle of session. And between now and April 29, a lot of things can happen, okay? Attachment 3 is your service agreement. That is just a sample that DIR provides in case you don't have your own, or that you want an idea of the things that DIR require on a service level agreement. And this one also, the good thing about using this one is that it already addresses the terms and conditions from the contract and the standard terms and condition exhibit attachment 2. so that it doesn't conflict with either or. So sometimes vendors will propose their own service level agreements, and then we have to go back and make sure it doesn't conflict with our terms. But this one already covers that, saves you time. Attachment 4 is a scope of work, which means this is the kind of document you will see from our customers when they're requesting services deliverables. Okay, next slide. So let's talk about each exhibit. I tried to cover a lot while I was showing you the documents that you need to download from the ESPD, but I want to talk a little bit about these because there's some things about these documents you need to know. Exhibit A is your respondent information. Please fill it out in its entirety. Do not leave any blank spaces. Sign it. If something doesn't apply to you, please enter NA so we don't have to guess it. Make sure you complete all the forms, cancel contract forms, and whatever other forms and affidavits this is going to require so that your Exhibit A can be accepted. Also, Exhibit A must have a signature, a legal signature. Copy and paste blocks on a Word document is a big flag for me. So unless you absolutely have to, I recommend you print the Exhibit A, sign it, scan it, and then attach it to your response. That's the safest way to make sure you have a legal signature. E-signatures are allowed. And that's one of the #1 questions people ask. What kind of, if wet signature is all that counts? You can have e-signatures. Make sure they're from a common used e-signature programs, such as DocuSign, Adobe eSign, or something that is recognizable. It has a signature number on it. It makes it official, okay? And most important, people can't edit. Exhibit A1, exceptions. We rather you not ask for any, if possible, because this is services, and let's be serious. Everything you need to do to protect yourself is going to be on the scope of work. At a master level contract, think about that. When asking for exceptions, make sure that if you're hiring a lawyer to look at these exceptions, at these terms and conditions to protect your company, that lawyer is familiar with government contracting law, please. Because one of the things you need to understand is that if terms and conditions has a legal citing to it, it shows that it's a law. We cannot change it. I know some of you are special, but we cannot change the law for you. It will just take a long time, okay? So keep that in mind. Make sure that if you're going to hire a legal person, they are government contract legal, that they know these things are important to save you time, save us time, okay? Exhibit B is your history and experience. This is going to be very important because there's going to be major changes on qualifications for this RFO. And I am going to tell you more about it on the addendum, okay? And you must provide a detailed response to each question. If you have not watched the October 11 training on how to respond to an RFO and YouTube, I strongly recommend you do it before you start your paperwork. Because in that training, I walk you step by step how to fill out these forms and how not to miss anything. And one of the things I want to recommend to all of you, please, please, pretty please, do not insert pages into these forms. Do not make elaborate front pages or documents or reporting or all of this stuff. Just simply fill out the forms, put the data, make the data valuable. That's what we need. All the pictures and all of the marketing stuff that you guys put in there, it's just wasting y'all's time. So try to keep it simple, try to keep it real, and most important, answer every question, okay? Next slide. All right, so exhibit C, D, and E. C is your marketing plan and your customer support plan. So In this, there are things where there are attachments that you need to attach to your Appendix C, to Exhibit C. Make sure you label them correctly. Also, you also have an option to provide samples of your current customer base plans that you have instituted. Like if you have a customer that you did a development project for, and you have an after life. So they go live, and then there is a support plan that you guys work on, how to do bugs, how to work on this stuff. Those kinds of things are important for this review of your support plan. So you're welcome to attach samples to your Exhibit C on top of your attachment 1 and 2 that is required, okay? Exhibit D, as I told you before, is your hub plan, and Teresa is gonna cover that very, very well. Exhibit E is your vendor reference. You, as a vendor, cannot return this document to us with your response. It must come through the email that is in the form for this RFO and by your customer, through your customers. And one of the questions I get about this form is, some of my customers do not want to fill out forms. Can you call them? Or most of my customers don't want to provide references. What do we do? References will increase your score. It will not penalize you. So I strongly recommend you get references. I strongly recommend you provide references. But in case you cannot, it is not going to penalize your score. It can only increase it, okay? And Exhibit E, the references are to be scored with Exhibit B as part of your reference and experience section, okay? So just another question, how is this scored? It's scored with Exhibit B, and it is part of your experience part, okay? Next slide. So Exhibit F, we talked about that. You're gonna do a release. Exhibit G is your accessibility. Exhibit H, again, accessibility. And you will have specific instructions how to do these accessibility. I strongly recommend you pay attention. Next slide. Let's talk about the scope. Next slide. So the scope of the RFO is very simple. It is basically, we are going to contract for deliverable-based services. Services, no products, no selling software, services only, okay? Very important. You can have tools that you use to provide these services, but you're not gonna be selling any products with this RFO. I wanna make sure we all understand that, okay? All right. So with each category, we are providing you samples. We are providing you the ideas of what that category covers. If you don't see something that you think you want to provide under this RFO, but you don't see it listed, keep in mind that some of these categories says this, but not limited to. So you can always ask the question, I provide this type of server, will this fit into one of the categories? And I'll be happy to help, okay? Each category implies the requirement for the skills to accomplish the outcome and to deliver an acceptable product to our customers. So we need to pay attention to those requirements. Next slide. So as we discussed, we have 4 categories. Oh, by the way, so that you know, there is a section in this RFO about emerging technology. As our industry technology changes every day, with AI on the horizon, or here already, AI is always here, we know things are gonna change, and we have lots of ways to address change and to address new deliverables and to address those types of things. So keep in mind that that is part of it and that we are addressing it as it comes up, okay? Next slide. All right, so here's our 4 categories. We have application development, maintenance and support, technology upgrade, migration, transformation, and enterprise resource planning, which encompasses a lot of things. ERP, the big umbrella, a lot of things fit in there. So One of the things I want you to know is addendum 1 is going to come with a huge change. In order for you to qualify for a development contract through the DBITS to be part of this category, because we're going to award based on categories. So in order to be awarded item 1, your company must be established for 5 years, and it must be doing development for 5 years of experience. Established for 5 years and have 5 years of experience doing this. Okay? Very, very important change coming up. Items 2, business intelligence. Items 3, IT assessment planning. You can read all of these things. And then number 4 is project and program management. All 3, 2, 3, and 4 will have a requirement of company must be established for 3 years in the field of technology. And it must have at least 3 years of experience, okay? So don't forget, that's addendum 1, it's coming. We talk about experience in RFO requirements, but now we're gonna put a number to it, because if you do not meet this qualification, you will not move to the next step on the evaluations. Okay, next slide. So the next 4 slides is about each category and all the details. You are going to get a copy of this presentation. This presentation will also be posted to YouTube. Therefore, you can read all of these details, guys. I'm not going to read it to you. This, you can read it on the RFO document. I just want to make sure you understand all the things that encompasses into this. So application development is a given. Technology upgrade, migration, integration, all of that. Legacy applications, changes, all of this stuff is part of this. Transformation, include assessment, application portfolio, evaluation, transformation of business case development. There is a lot part of this one item, but all of it requires 5 years of a company being established in the technology industry, okay? Next slide. So 2.2, we have, this is a little bit more of the application development section. We have agile methodologies, we have ERP, we have cloud. It is a big category, guys. So it's very, very important that you read each section of the scope of this RFO to make sure you qualify to do it, okay? One of the things that we're talking about is if you're gonna submit a VADSR, the word sample is going to be taken out on addendum 1. Our accessibility director have told us that they want you to fill out a real VADSR for development, how your company does development and how you address accessibility through development. So no samples of previous projects, only the real thing, okay? Next slide. So here we're going to talk about business intelligence, data management, analytics. So I break it down a little bit more on the scope. And if you already download the RFO, you already read these documents. So no sense of me reading it to you. But you all know what is encompasses in this category. And if you have any questions concerning any categories, to see if you fit or not, we can always talk about that. You can send in a question or email me. Next slide. So here's our number 3 category, IT assessments and planning. So there's a lot going on here. There's a lot to be done. One of the things I need to make sure you understand, procurement advisory. That's when you hire somebody to help. Agencies will hire somebody to help them put together a large procurement. So they're going to hire you to help them develop the procurement plan, develop the scope, work on the specifications, work with them on determining qualifications for vendors. When you are that vendor that is hired, you cannot bid on that solicitation. This is very, very, very important that you understand. You cannot bid on that. And no one associated with your company can do it either. Okay? So when you are hired to help with a procurement, you're hired to help with a procurement. And as you know, we like to treat every vendor equally. And this rule is here for that purpose. If a vendor assists on a solicitation as an advisory, they're getting a leg up. So they should not be bidding. They should not be proposing on that solicitation because they know a lot more than all the other vendors that are going to get the solicitation posted. Okay? That is the reason. And as you can see, there's a Texas government code attached to it, which means we can't change it. Next slide. Project and program management. This encompasses a lot of things. And I kind of want you guys to look at all of these references that's talking about project management, what is encompassed, what you can and cannot do. They could hire a company to actually manage a program for a period of time. That program management is going to have deliverables. It's not a job. Guys, please understand this. This is not ITSEC. Nowhere on the DBITS program are you hiring people to go into an office to do somebody else's job that is no longer there, or that is temporary, or that is a project that the agency is doing it themselves and they want somebody there for them to work with. That is ITSEC. ITSEC is providing people, and it's based on qualifications of that person. So if I am an agency and I am looking to have someone develop a website for me, I can hire a web developer to come into my office and follow my directions and work with me. That's ITSEC. If I want a web developed through DBITS, I will write a scope of work and I will hire a company that has several people under their disposal to do the web development. That is the difference between ITSEC and DBITS. DBITS is a deliverable base, not people. And when you're doing a deliverable scope of work, response to a customer, they expect you to have the staff to do the work. You cannot say that we are going to subcontracting or we're going to look for someone with the right qualifications to provide us services. Okay? You must keep that in mind. Scope of work, when a customer is putting that out there, they want you to have the people. They want you to provide them the qualifications of your company as well as the people that's going to do the work. The deliverables is what matters on DBITS. Next slide. All right, so let's talk about exclusions, okay? A couple things on 2.4 exclusion out of scope, item 2, cloud assessment services being deleted under addendum 1. So that there's no confusion, cloud assessment is going to be part of the scope of this RFO. I don't have to agree with it, but it's there and it's being deleted so that you all know that, so you don't have to tell me twice, okay? Also, one of the things you need to pay attention to is the state prohibits software application developers, manufacturers listed, posted at the DIR website. Make sure that you're not proposing any of those stuff because they're on that list for a reason, okay? Next slide. Let's talk about how we're going to evaluate this solicitation because it is a competitive solicitation, right? So, pass or fail, very important. Exhibit A, signed, completed in its entirety. Financial information, DUNS number, and Bradstreet. That needs to be accurate. Please, your corporate address and your corporate DUNS number is what we are required to do your financial review. Make sure that's accurate. We waste a lot of time, guys, trying to figure this out during evaluation. Time that we do not have because we already lost 60 days on this solicitation. So the more time you guys spend doing it right, the less time I got to spend clarifying it. So please remember those things. Your hub subcontracting plan is a pass or fail. Guys, do not submit a blank hub plan with a signature and expect to make it. Your hub plan has to be complete. It has to have the right backup information. It has to be complete. It has to be on the right form in order to pass to the next level. Vendor performance score on the ESBD. I mean, on the vendor performance program of the CPA. And we talk about this more on the RFO document. But another thing that's going to be pass or fail is your company establishment years, 5 years or 3 years, depending on what you propose. You will need to have that to pass to the next level. Okay, next slide. All right. So we talked a little bit overall, and now we're going to dig in. The Exhibit A must be completed and signed. Any missing or blank PDAA is going to be failing. Hub contract plan missing information is going to be failing. So you got to remember that. Financial review is important here. We look at the DUNS number. You must have a score below 9 to pass. So if you don't have that right now on your DUNS corporate review, it's time for you to go fix it now. Don't try to fix this 3 days after this thing opens, because it's not going to work. If you fix it after we tell you that you fail, you fail. This is a snapshot in time. The administrative review is done, and when it's done, it's over. So if you're going to fix anything, this is the time to do it before the opening, not after. Okay, next slide. So, looks like we missed a slide here. And go back one, please. All right, we are missing a slide. Why? Okay. Huh. Okay. So wanted to talk about evaluating exhibit. Oh, that's why. I got it. All right, guys, sorry. Section 4.2 of the evaluation criteria talks about what we are going to do after the administrative review happens. So if your incomplete response packages might be rejected because we can't evaluate you if you don't have an exhibit B or C. You'll get a 0 and you will not make the competitive break. Financial review, hub, all of those are pass-fail. Just got to remember, failure to provide a DUNS number also may result in being disqualified. Only responses that receive the passing grade will proceed to the next phase. What's the next phase? The evaluation criteria is weighted. So Exhibit B is worth 60% of your score. So please pay attention to this because it's big. This can make it or break your response. Okay, follow the directions, answer the questions. Don't put answers all over the place. Put the answers under the correct question. So the evaluators are not going to go to any links. They're not going to read any marketing materials. They are going to look at what you write and what you put in paper in that form. That's what's going to be evaluated. Okay. Exhibit C, marketing plan is worth 40%. So you got a part 1, your marketing plan is very simple. How are you going to market to the DIR customer base what you do? So a lot of vendors think that this is an e-commerce plan. It is not. You're not going to get a contract and tomorrow somebody's going to call you for business. You have to market yourself. You have a customer base to do so, and you got to tell us how you're going to reach out to them. Part 2, customer support plan. This is all about what are you going to do to support the project that you completed. How are you going to support the customers? What is your service level agreements? What does the customer do when they have a problem after you leave after you're done with your deliverables? Okay, So that's what you're thinking about on there. Next slide. So here is, so evaluation B and C will only be considered with information submitted within the form. And I talked about this before. So web page links, information included as reference material will not be considered. This also includes marketing materials, which is not allowed to be submitted as part of your response. Always when you're responding to these questions, remember, DIR is not buying anything. We need to know that you can fulfill this contract for our customers as a master contract holder for DIR program. DIR has a section where we buy stuff, but it's not us, okay? So the DIR evaluation of respondent history and experience may include your performance record with the CPA vendor performance tracking system. We talked about that earlier. It can also be something that disqualifies right off the bat, or it's something that can be considered part of your experience. Also, we are going to, under Exhibit B, we're going to evaluate references as part of your experience. Okay, next slide. So this is what I've been talking to you about throughout the morning. There is an addendum forthcoming. Why? Because the legislature is in session. One of the things that come out of this already is Executive Order 48, which is going to be added to Addendum 1, and it's going to be part of an affidavit that you will fill out for Exhibit A, Respondent Information and Qualifications. Okay, this has to do with companies, associations, subsidiaries, ownership of companies for foreign companies that the state, United States, not going to do business with. So there's several countries that has been banned from doing business with the United States, and these are listed on these authorization acts that the Executive Order 48 covers. So we're going to send you lots of information about this, and on the Addendum 1, you will get specific directions what to do. Okay, next slide. The contract, and I'm going to pass it on to Julia so my voice can take a break.
Hello, everyone. I'll be going over the contract and the contract terms. Next slide. So the contract term totals a 5-year contract, and that includes the optional renewals. And an option to extend would be at DIR's discretion, which all this would be at DIR's discretion. Next slide. And the RFO schedule. Next slide. So this is the schedule of the solicitation, which Wednesday, February 20th was the day that the RFO was posted to ESBD. Today was the day that one of the pre-proposal webinars was done. And then there's going to be another one on Wednesday night, on April 9th at 2 p.m. And then deadline for submitting questions will be March 27th at 5 p.m. Tuesday, April 29th, deadline for DIR to receive vendor references, and deadline for the submitting responses to the RFO at 2 p.m. April 3rd, 2025, until completed, will be administrative review, evaluation of responses, oral presentations if requested, negotiations, and contract execution. Now you're going to hear from the Hub Director, Teresa. Next slide. Thank you.
Thank you, Julia. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Teresa Williamson. I'm the Hub Program Director here at DIR. And let's talk about the importance of submitting a completed and signed Hub subcontracting plan. All right. All vendors, Hub and non-Hub, are required to complete and sign a Hub subcontracting plan, also known as your HSP. This is the link that Vanya was talking about. So please visit the link here for the most currently approved HSP. You will be required to download the form to complete it. A wet signature is best, but we do accept, like Vanya said, the digital signature. Please remember to not to modify this form or to export it into a Word document. This copy is an editable form and is owned and managed by the Comptroller's Office. Next slide. Again, all respondents, hub and non-hub, are required to submit a completed and signed HSP. Failure to submit a completed signed HSP will cause your response to be rejected. This, again, is it's a pass or fail item, and there are 3 ways to complete the HSP. The first is to meet or exceed your hub goal and complete method A. The second is to not meet the hub goal and complete method B. And the third is to simply self-perform. Next slide. The hub goal for this RFO is 26%. If your proposed subcontracting meets or exceeds the 26% hub goal, you'll complete method A. Be sure to identify all hub and non-hub vendors that you will be subcontracting with, include the anticipated dollar amounts and expected percentages. So when completing method A, you'll complete sections 1, 2, 4, and method A, attachment A. Next slide. If you are going to subcontract below the hub goal, you'll complete method B. Be sure to solicit a minimum of 3 hub certified companies and 2 minority trade organizations. With your method B good faith effort, you must allow them 7 working days to respond to you prior to the due date of this RFO. This does not include weekends or holidays. Include your outreach to these entities with your HSP submission. So if you're completing method B, you'll complete sections 1, 2, 4, and then method B, attachment B. And again, don't forget to include those approximate dollar amounts and percentages. Also, please allow yourself plenty of time to complete your method B good faith effort. Please remember that the day that you send out correspondence is considered day 0. I've seen many companies submit an incomplete method B good faith effort and fail the process because of it. So please do give yourself plenty of time to follow through with the instructions when completing this method. Next slide. If you will be self-performing, you'll complete sections 1, 2, 3, and 4. In your self-performing justification, you'll identify how your company will fulfill this contract with its own current staff, equipment, and resources. So that's your current resources. Please don't say that you'll subcontract in the future, or if you need to, you'll just simply tell us how you will self-perform a contract should you be awarded. Next slide. All right, so we've added some support tools here. I bet you didn't know that DIR does have a YouTube channel. Vanya did speak to this a little bit earlier. So those earlier recordings of the DBITS information, those are out there on our YouTube channel, but also these 3 links are resources available to you to walk you through the process of completing your hub subcontracting plan using each method that we've talked about previous to this. So those links are provided for you. Next slide. And to continue on those support tools, we wanted to give you some of the most common errors that we see on the hub subcontracting plan. So I won't go through all of those, but as you can see here, by the end of the day, the biggest error that you can make is not using your resources. So not using that information that's out there on the YouTube channel, but also not using the hub office because we can assist you with completing that document. Next slide. All right. My contact information is listed here. Like I said, we will provide you with a complimentary review of your hub subcontracting plan prior to the due date of this RFO as time permits. So you want to make sure that you're not waiting too late to get this information over to us. You must contact us no later than 10 days prior to the due date of this RFO. Please take advantage of this complimentary review. We're here to assist you. And remember that when corresponding with the hub office, to make sure that you are copying the procurement lead, which is Vanya, on all of your correspondence. Next slide. And turn it over to Marie.
Thank you, Teresa. Hello and good afternoon. I'm Marie Cohan. I am the statewide digital accessibility officer, and I'm going to walk through the accessibility requirements in your response. Next slide, please. So a little bit about digital accessibility and the governance. Digital accessibility is the practice of designing and building technology that removes barriers for people with disabilities. So we want all of our Texans to be able to use our technology in the state of Texas. We want them to be able to interact with their government and have no barriers in doing so. Texas Government Code 2054 Subchapter M lists out the Texas law governing this. And it also gives DIR authority to create Texas Administrative Code or rules to administer the statute. And those are under TAC 206 and TAC 213. We also follow best practices in the industry through the World Wide Web Consortium, and we are now on WCAG 2.1 AA. Be sure you note that because we have a brand new standard that just went into effect in April. So WCAG 2.1 AA. Technical standards are applicable. I would also like to add that your accessibility documentation should be submitted in an accessible format. So when you send in a spreadsheet or a Word document, go ahead and do an accessibility check on it as well. Next slide, please. So the documentation I'm going to review that will be in your response is a policy-driven adoption for accessibility, or PDAA. This is a vendor self-assessment. I'm also going to go over the Vendor Accessibility Development Services Information Request. This is for your non-product offering or development services. Both of these forms have instructions on them. You will use the forms that are provided in your packet to complete. Next slide, please. So the policy-driven adoption for accessibility is actually a NASCIO-sponsored document that went into effect about 10 years ago. This is a document that is assessing you and your organization. This has nothing to do with your offerings in your response. So nothing to do with your service offerings. This is to evaluate your organization and see how you're implementing accessibility practices throughout the organization. Are you including them in your HR practices, in your procurement practices? If you have developers on staff, how are you training them in accessibility, and so on? So we just want to evaluate how your organization approaches accessibility and where you fall in the maturity matrix. This is something that could actually help your organization, especially if you're new to accessibility. This could help you create a roadmap to develop a mature accessibility program within your organization. The form that is in your packet is a spreadsheet. You will go through and answer each of the questions. You will answer with a numeric value. It will be a 0, a 1, a 2, or a 3, and it will total a score at the bottom. Please do not submit a PDAA with X's for the answers or check marks or letters or anything else, because it will not create a score at the bottom, and that will be a fail. If you do not submit the PDAA, if you submit an incomplete or blank PDAA, if you submit one with a score of 0, it will be a fail. So please read those questions carefully. Even if you're very, very new to accessibility, I'm sure you'll be able to find somewhere in your organization where you've started implementing some level of practice so that you do not get a score of 0. Next slide, please. This is an example of the PDAA maturity matrix and has the different stages. There's a launch stage, which is very early on in your accessibility maturity. There's an integrated stage, so you're starting to develop some good processes, repeatable processes. It's spreading throughout the organization. And then we have an optimal stage where it's become part of your organizational culture. You have well-documented processes in place. You have well-trained staff. and you can actually share those practices with others in the community. Next slide, please. So the Vendor Accessibility Development Services Information Request, which is a mouthful, is for development services only. So if you are an organization responding to this DBITS solicitation and you plan to work on development services like web development or application development or mobile application development, you will complete this form. Make sure that you are understanding the expectation is WCAG 2.1 AA. Complete the form as much as you can, add as much detail as you can. The questions on the form are, are your development staff trained in accessibility? What kind of classes have they taken? What kind of testing do they do? What kind of testing tools do they use? How do they track defects? And so on. It will also ask you to submit a sample of your web work, and you can just put links in at the bottom. I have gotten really good at looking at these and knowing if you've copied and pasted content from the web or from somewhere else. So please do not do that. Please do not have Gen AI spit something out. Take a moment to look at it and put in and personalize it to your organization so that we can understand how well your development team is trained. Next slide, please. This is an example of the questions that are on the form, and I've already kind of gone through these. Again, it's around your development staff's training, skills, what kind of tools that they use, how do they track defects, and then also, which I did not mention, what kind of alternate accommodation can you provide in the event that there is a defect with the product? How will you work with the customer to provide that information in an alternate way? Next slide, please. So DIR offers training for all of our vendors that are responding to our technology contracts. There are 4 courses in the training. They're specific to Texas, except for maybe the Intro to Digital Accessibility. They are designed to help our vendors respond to solicitations with the accessibility portion. I look at all of my vendors as partners that support my customers. So please take your time in filling this out. Keep in mind that our customers are looking to you to provide them with accessible services. So please feel free to take our training. Next slide, please. We also have a new way to sign up for the training. In the past, you would have to email me to get registered. Now you can visit the link that's on the screen at levelaccess.com. You can plug in an access code that is provided here, and it should go ahead and set up an account for you. If you have any questions or run into any problems setting up your training account, please feel free to email me at statewide-accessibility@dir.texas.gov. Make sure you copy Vanya on that email. And I can also do a pre-response or pre-solicitation review of your VADSR if you're really having trouble with it. I'm happy to look at that and provide some level of feedback. Next slide, please. We also have resources on our website if you need some additional support. Next slide, please. And that is my presentation. Thank you so much. And again, if you need help or need a pre-response review, reach out to me at statewide-accessibility@dir.texas.gov and make sure you copy Vanya on all communications. Thank you.
Okay, we are going to take a 10-minute break. We will be back at 3:10. Thank you.
Hello, hello.
Hey, Vanya, do we want to switch over to Teams?
Yes, I was I was just trying to make sure we could talk because I wanted to look at these questions. So we don't get caught, but it's okay.
All right, welcome back, everyone. We are going to go ahead and get started with the second half.
Hello, everybody. I'm Vanya Rainmakers. I'm back. I'm going to cover general information about the RFO, but before I start, I've been reading y'all's questions and just want to make sure that we answer a few of those that are so similar. So basically, we are sharing this presentation with all of you. We'll have a PDF deck attached to addendum 1. We will have a link to this presentation on our YouTube channel. Okay, let's go ahead and go into the next slide. So, few things we all need to understand that the reference, the RFO page number and section number when submitting questions are very important. So that we know what you are referencing. Webinar participant may submit questions electronically on our VIS portal. And we're going to talk about the step-by-step for our VIS portal here pretty quick. Questions and answers today are unofficial until posted on the ESPD in the form of an addendum. Vendors really need to pay attention to the ESPD posting. DIR will send out announcements about addendums, but it's up to you to follow the solicitation posting on the ESPD for updates, okay? All questions regarding this RFO must be submitted in writing through the Bitstamp vendor information portal by March 27. We will do, and this was one of the questions, we will do addendums throughout the process as questions come in. We're not going to wait until March 27 to do an addendum to answer your questions, okay? So that we can post them and you guys can have answer to continue your response. Next slide. So here are some things that are most common when we evaluate questions, right? So your response is failure to sign Exhibit A, failure to complete your financial information, failure to complete a historical hub plan, failure to complete and submit Exhibit H, your policy, PDAA, failure to submit on or before the due date and time. So when I go over the Bitstamp system, one of the things I'm going to talk about is the submit button. You must push that button before 2 p.m. in order for you to have a response recorded in our system, okay? Another thing that can disqualify you is talking to anybody else at DIR besides myself or Hub or Marie. And those communications come through me. And if I'm not here, my backup is Julia. And she will be CC on all communications of this solicitation so that we can both be ready to take care of any questions that you have. So please refer, do not talk to DIR employees, to our customers, to people that you are, for example, if you're a current vendor and you have a purchase order in play and you're working on a project, do not be talking to those people about the RFO, please. Any vendor responding to this RFO must submit their responses through the Bitstamp. We talked about this earlier. Next slide. So here's something that it's a tip to you guys. Very important, okay? When you submit Exhibit A, your response document is what I call your contract confirmation of who you are, that you are capable of doing business with Texas, that you have all the qualifications, and that you are in good standing with the state of Texas, okay? Very important document. So the data in your Exhibit A must be true data, which means for vendors that are filling out this information for their company, please be aware of what your company legal registration name is. Don't put a shortcut on Exhibit A. Exhibit A needs to be your legal registered company name. A four-way match is great. A three-way is critical. When we are doing checks, Exhibit A, Secretary of State registration, Duns and Bradstreet record, should always match a company legal name, company corporate address, company FIN number, must match. Those are the three-way matches you are required to have. So I strongly recommend you go into the Secretary of State, print your registration, and then fill out Exhibit A. Just a tip. Also, another thing that could be helpful, it's a four-way match. If your Bitstamp Salesforce account match your legal registration, it will avoid delays during negotiations because we need to have your legal name in order to prepare your contract document set. So you call yourself INNET, but your company name is not INNET, it's something totally different. Your forms needs to be the Secretary of State registration. Your franchise tax, on the other hand, can have a different address. The name should match because the franchise tax of the state of Texas and the Secretary of State are connected by a number. So if your franchise tax go forfeited overnight, your Secretary of Registration will also be forfeited and you will not be eligible for a contract. So be aware of your state of Texas registration status. This last solicitation we did, we had vendors that missed out on a contract before they were not able to fix their registration status. And we, as a state agency, cannot award a contract to a vendor that is not in good standing with the state of Texas. So the beginning of the year is critical right now because the 2024 Texas information was just required of all vendors, and a lot of vendors missed that deadline. So be aware, okay? Next slide. So what information must match? Your company legal name, and that includes the DBA if your DBA is legally registered, okay? Company corporate address, not the local office, not who is serving the contract. There are places on Exhibit A for you to put that information. But your corporate address is what we need. Your company FIN number, not your subsidiary, not the company that you are connected to or linked to or do business with. Your legal company FIN number and the DUNS number associated with your company legal name and your company corporate address. These are things that makes your evaluation and your administrative review go a lot faster if they match and we don't have to clarify anything. Okay, next slide. So let's talk about the RFO documentation. I'm going to talk a lot about file names during the Bitstamp section, but for this RFO, you know what that XXX means? No, not funny. Don't be laughing. It means your company 3 initials, the best way to identify your company. Let's just say your Exhibit A gets put in and somehow the system puts it in the wrong folder. If I have your company at 3 digits, I can identify it quickly. I don't have to open the document to figure it out, or I don't have to go look for it because those 3 little digits can put your document in the right folder when the system uploads your responses. That's how critical that is. The other thing that's very critical is that 593. That's the RFO number. Everything in our systems connects and links through that number. So don't send me a form that says 588 or 570 because that's not going to fall in the right place. So make sure that your documents' names are exactly correct. I know it seems like a little thing, and some of you like to download your documents, fill out your forms, don't change the name, and then upload to your response. And then you find out that the system won't accept your forms because the name is too long. So I strongly recommend take the time and name your files correctly to make it easier for your evaluators to find information, for us to make sure all the response documents moved over correctly. Another thing to know is that if a document is required on an Excel format, you will upload it on an Excel format. Do not PDF or PDAs. That will not pass. Make sure your PDAs are in Excel format for it to be evaluated. Okay. And when you submit your documents, make sure they're searchable. Make sure your documents are properly accessible so that we can look for information within these documents without worrying about things not matching or things not being found because they're not searchable. And it takes us longer to do the things we need to do. Okay. So the response documents for this RFO is not that much. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7 must documents that everybody has to provide. Number 8 is the VATSR, and it's only applicable if you are proposing development. All the signed addendum to the RFO also needs to be part of your response. We need to know that you understand what's been changed. And with this RFO, the legislative in session, Executive Order 48, lots of changes. I need you to make sure that I see your signed addendums that says we read the addendum, we understand the changes, because later on, you cannot come back and say to me, Vanya, but I didn't see the addendum. I submitted my response before the addendum was posted. Yeah, that's not going to fly, because I'm telling you, the addendums are going to reflect a lot of changes for your response documents. So you must have them and you must sign them in order for me to know that you have understood the requirements that has changed, okay? And I'm saying this clearly to help you guys from experience that a lot of vendors do have this issue, and it's very important that you understand not to have it, okay? I'm trying to help you guys. Next slide. So some of you on the questions asked for the link of the training that I talked about earlier. So here they are. They will be on this RFO addendum 1. When I send out this, you will have it. If you need it before them, send me an email and I'll shoot these links to you right away. This October 11 training is very important for vendors that have not started with us back in December and October, so that you can have all the information you need to be successful responding to this RFO. Today, I am not going to cover all this step-by-step of bid stamp, but the October 11 session 2 walks you through step-by-step how to respond to the RFO through our VIS portal. It's very important, okay? Next slide. So we talked about this. It's very important. Don't be talking to anybody except me. I know I'm special, so y'all gonna have to talk to me, whether you want to or not. That's who you talk to. It's either me or Julia, okay? And I am always here. I'm always available. And for you guys that don't know me, I am a quick respond. When you send me an email, I will respond. I will pay attention to what you're asking and I will respond to you, okay? And if I need to, I will call you. Next slide. So here's our contact information. So that's me, Julia. You can talk to Stephanie. She is our director. She's going to be taking any information you need concerning bid stamp. So if bid stamp doesn't work, if you can log on, If you have an issue with files uploading because they're too long and you didn't listen to Vanya, you can call Stephanie and she'll tell you, okay? Hub plan, Teresa will be helping you. Always CC the DIR Hub office email box, because if Teresa's not around and she's gone, her staff is amazing. They will take care of you, okay? And you can always contact Marie for any accessibility needs and CC me so that she knows we're in touch, okay? Next slide. All right, now I'm gonna go over the bid stamp. And like I said, this is gonna be an abbreviated section of what to do with bid stamp. But the October 11 training, step by step, you can forward it, you can fast forward it, you can slow it down, you can pause it. It really helps you fill out your response, okay? Next slide. So, bid submittal. Any respondent to this RFO is going to respond to bid stamp. Before users can access bid stamp, you are going to need to get an account. If you're brand new, here's the link. If you need it sooner than this presentation is going to be available, you can go into the DIR website under the vendor selling through DIR. At the bottom of the page, the link is there and you can request your bid stamp access, okay? When requesting an access, make sure you tell them which solicitation you're wanting it for. And when you give them your credentials, make sure they match your legal registration name. Because remember that four-way match I told you about? Because the bid stamp people are not going to check your registration before they set up your account. They're going to set up your account the way you tell them. So please tell them the correct name. Okay? I appreciate that very, very much. Okay? When setting up your bid stamp, use your SOS legal company name, always. For vendors that are going to ask me the question, what if I'm not registered yet? Can I respond to this RFO? The answer is yes. You can respond to this RFO, but your registration better be finished and complete and active by the time we get to negotiations. Okay? I'm not going to wait for you to get registered to complete your negotiations. I'm on a timeline, guys. These contracts got to be awarded by a certain timeline, and I meet my deadlines. So if you're not registered right now, I strongly recommend you get started. Okay? And by the way, there's a thing out there that says it costs $1,800 to register to do business with the Texas registration. I don't believe that is true. I believe that some of you are paying people to do the work. So you're going to pay more if somebody else is going to do it. But registering is not that difficult. The forms are online. Everything is done online. Just follow the rules. It shouldn't be that hard, okay? You may view the video, how to set up your bid stamp account. It's in our DIR link. It's here. They talk about once you get your access to bid stamp, how to set up your account. This also walks you through this training, okay? So you got lots of tools to help you be successful in responding to this RFO. Next slide. So persons with this disability that cannot use the system, please send me an email right away so we can make arrangements to help you and figure out a way to help you provide us with your response, okay? Next slide. So here we are. This is the DIR webpage. So you go to DIR right there, and you're going to go into selling through DIR. You're going to scroll to the bottom of the page. Next slide. And you're going to see schedule solicitation opportunities. You're going to click on that. You're going to go down some more, and you're going to find a bid stamp application right after the posting phase. So when you look at solicitation page, you're going to see planning, pre-solicitation posting, solicitation posting, negotiations, evaluation, negotiations, and then posting phase. So you're going to see all of that, and then you're going to see the bid stamp application. Okay. Next slide. So here's what you're going to see when you click on that link. And right over here says, if you don't have an account, click here. That's what you're going to get, a new accounts request. Next slide. So when you open your bid stamp, after you get it all set up, nice and pretty, this is the screen you're going to see. You're going to open solicitations. You're going to see your responses, vendor information that you can look at to make sure. Next slide, you're going to select the solicitation you want. Over here as a sample, I'm looking at 570 or 593, which is the one that you want. We are going to have several solicitation posted. Just make sure you pick the right number. The one you're looking for is 593. Okay, next slide. So over here, you're going to start your response by filling in this basic information. Right on this slide, you will see where you can ask questions. This is where you do it, okay? It also reports deadlines and tells you when things are available. The question icon right there will go away when the question deadline comes. You will not be able to see that anymore. Okay, next slide. So we saw buttons that respond to solicitation, asking a question, subscribe to a solicitation, view solicitation. The subscribe to a solicitation is kind of important because that is the button you need to set up if you want to receive notifications when I post addendums to the ESBD. Now, when we send you notices, that doesn't mean that BidStamp has the documents. The only place that you can view documents, download documents for this solicitation is the ESBD. Our internal VIS portal has links, but no documents for you to download. Okay, next slide. So this is the next part that's very important. Right now, this is where you create a pricing form, and we don't want to talk about that because this solicitation doesn't require pricing. So that doesn't apply to you. Over here, you're going to see a vendor references section where you can actually enter your customer names and email address and submit the vendor reference form through the system. I strongly recommend you do not do that, okay? And the reason for that is that some customers' email are not going to take system emails, and it's going to go to their spam folder, and you won't be able to see it. Here's my recommendation. References. When you send the reference request to your customer, CC yourself and then tell them to reply to all so that you receive a notice when they submit their reference forms to DIR. And that's the best way for you to know that your references have been submitted. Okay. You're going to upload your documents over here. You can see right there where you upload documents. If you watch the October 11 bid stamp directions training, it will tell you exactly how to do this. And it will tell you how many characters your file names can have. And it's going to talk about all the issues that could happen. And it's going to talk about something that is very important. And that is when you upload a document and you say, okay, there's a button there that says, which document are you uploading, right? And you're going to say Exhibit A, Exhibit B, Exhibit C, and then there'll be a button that says Other. Okay. If you upload an exhibit, you select Exhibit A, but you upload a document that is not Exhibit A, the system is going to give you a screen that says, this is your document name. This is the document reference. Is this correct? Make sure. And don't think that it doesn't happen. I have vendors that submitted Exhibit B 3 times instead of Exhibit A, and they got disqualified. Okay, so that feature will help you make sure that the document you're uploading and the document you're selecting is the exact document you're submitting. okay? So we're cutting out all the excuses as why things go wrong. We're telling you all of these things so you can be prepared and take advantage of other people's experience and mistakes. Next slide. So mandatory submission documents. Let's talk about what you absolutely have to submit with this solicitation. You're going to submit Exhibit A, must be signed. Exhibit A, cancel contracts. If you do not have any, send the attachment with the word NA. So we know that you looked at it, that you know you don't have any, okay? Exceptions document, I read it, you don't. But if you don't have exceptions, send the form with an NA on it. So we know for sure you have no exceptions. Follow the instructions for Exhibit A1, especially the right fields to fill in. Make sure you enter the exact language from terms and conditions. Say you're asking for an exception on number 1.1 is intellectual property. So go in there and copy section 5, put it on the Exhibit A1, and then redline the things you want to change. Legal is not going to go look for things. When they see your Exhibit A1, if it's not formatted correctly, they're simply going to reject it. Okay? So you need your Exhibit B, Exhibit C, Exhibit D. By the way, the Exhibit D is the one that comes from the CPA website. Exhibit E, your reference form will come from the customers, and you have an email provided that you will give your customers to submit these forms to DIR. Exhibit F is your release of liability. You will submit that to us. Exhibit D, the PDAA, will be submitted to us in the Excel format. Exhibit H, accessibility development form, is only required if you are proposing to development section, okay? Under Exhibit, I think is Exhibit B. Yes, it is Exhibit B. Question 2 is going to say, which categories are you responding to? You're going to put a check mark on the categories. There are 4 blocks. It is critical that you click those boxes. Don't leave it blank, because that's how we're going to sort the vendors for evaluation and for us to do the competitive break. So please fill out that form and make sure you tell us which ones of those categories you are proposing to respond, okay? And then all your signed addendas needs to be part of your response, okay? Next slide. All right, rejection of response. This is the sole discretion authority of DIR. So make sure you comply with all the mandatory requirements. Make sure that you meet all the qualifications. I do not want any vendor to submit a response. This is a lot of work, guys, to submit a response if you do not qualify to do this job. So read the requirements, read the qualifications, make sure that you can pass those very first steps so that you save your own self money and time, okay? Next. So now we're going to talk about questions for a little bit, but I want to make sure to enhance something very important. No matter what we say in this Q&A session here, no matter what the answers are, nothing is official until it's posted on the ESBD in the form of an addendum, okay? One of the things I wanted to tell you guys is the October meetings that we had with vendors had lots of Q&A questions. We submitted those questions and answers to the people that were on those meetings, but I will be posting them for you under the addendum 1 so that you don't have to ask questions that already been asked and answered. Okay, so pay attention to addendum 1. There will be a document with all the questions that were answered on previous meetings of this type for this RFO, okay? All right, I'll let Brianna take over and do the questions, and we'll just take turn answering them, guys.
Sure. Let's go ahead and start from the very top. There's quite a few here. Okay, the first question. Do you have a list of current DBITS contract holders for 924-40 education services?
The DIR website, if you go and search for 553, it will bring up all the contracts for that RFO. We also have open records request that you can request information on previous vendors and RFOs, okay? I
Perfect.
will not be providing that information to you. Next question.
Okay. I have several questions about if the recording will be available. Yes, it will be on YouTube and I believe in the addendum.
Yes.
Okay. For the instructor-led training need, what documentation must we provide to demonstrate our ability to deliver effective training? For example, past contracts, instructor qualifications, course onlines, customer success metrics.
Okay. I would like this vendor to send me an email and maybe we can have a conversation. Instructor-led training, we might have to discuss if that even meet the RFO requirements, because your company needs to be established for 3 years. You need to have experience providing that type of training. And we'll just need to have a little bit more one-on-one discussion about what you do and what your company does to see if it's qualified, okay? And I will help you with that. Next.
Okay, they asked 2 different questions, so we'll just do that. Is there a typo in the 2024 state agency program total? There was a significant drop from previous years.
Yes, that has to do with COVID. There was a previous drop on services and on that type of contract, but it's going back up in 2025, so no worries. And there's no typo.
Will the presentation be available? Yes, it will be in the addendum. All right. Can you clarify Exhibit E is named ESBD underscore 397357? It's
What
really
exhibit is?
Exhibit E, but inside the file, the cover letter says Exhibit F vendor reference.
All right, so you caught me. I'm glad you're reading. Yes, I will be correcting that form to the right name on addendum 1. Next question.
Yes, previously responded to ITSAC RFO and did not get awarded and don't know why. We followed instructions to receive one-on-one feedback, but have not had a response. We assume this information would be extremely helpful to know what went wrong so that we can address submitting the DBITS response. Can you advise how we can get feedback, please?
Okay, whoever this is can send me an email. I do not have access to the previous solicitation since I was not the procurement lead. The best thing I can do for you is I can do some research and see what I can find out and help you out. But I cannot promise you that I will give you exact information if I don't have access to it, but I will give it my very best to try to answer your questions. But I strongly recommend you watch the October 11 training on how to respond to an RFO forms, because that might just help you answer all your own questions. Next.
Okay. What are the timelines for award? Which year will the vendor be able to use the contract to sell to agencies?
Your contract will be, you'll be able to use your contract immediately after you receive an award letter. The contract award timeline, it all depends on several things. How many responses we get? How long does it take to evaluate them all? How long does it take us to clarify all of the questions and answers and clean and then go into negotiations. How many vendors are going to get negotiations? As an estimate, we have contracts that are expiring in December 2025, and I'm hoping to have contracts in place by then, but I'm not making any promises because the timeline is totally driven by the number of vendors that make it to the competitive break. Next question.
Can you confirm the official e-signature like Adobe is allowed if a proper audit trail is provided as proof of authenticity?
Yes, Adobe sign it's okay. Should be okay. No big deal.
Okay. Can you post the link to the November 11th training on how to fill out the RFO?
Yes, it is on the presentation slide. And if you need it before that, send me an email.
Are there page limits for marketing plan?
Yes, if you read the RFO, Exhibit C, it tells you exactly how many pages for each question.
Okay.
Next question.
Is it 3 references per category or in total?
3 reference total.
Okay. Is there a page limit for customer support plan?
Yes. If you read the form, you will find out how many.
Okay. We will get confirmation that a reference has successfully submitted on us. Oh, will we get confirmation?
No, we are not able to review the references email box until the day the RFO closes. Therefore, I cannot tell you if we got your references or not, because just like the solicitation has an opening date, the email box is in the same timeline, and I cannot open anything until the solicitation opens, until that afternoon after 2 o'clock. So my recommendation is make sure your customers CC you when they send it in, so you will have a record of it.
Okay. Attachment 4 seems to be a template, but not the real SOW.
That's correct. It is a template so that you know what our customers will be submitting to you.
Okay. Is public sector experience mandatory?
Nope.
Okay. Both for company and proposed staff. That's a part 2 question.
I'm not sure. We're not going to be evaluating individual staff members of a company. So we are evaluating the company capability of providing these services under the scope of the RFO. So I'm not quite sure what the question is, so you might want to submit it in a different way later on. Go ahead.
Are the years of establishment and years of experience conjoined, or are they separate numbers, meaning you need total of 10 years of development experience?
No, they're the same. So if your firm was established in 2020 and it's 2025, and you've been doing development for that time, that is sufficient.
Okay. Will you allow the prime vendor to use the subcontractor's qualifications criteria?
I don't believe so, but I will double check with management. But from a point of view of we are evaluating a company. So your subcontractor's experience can count on for your hub plan and all of that. And it may count for your Exhibit B experience based on the categories, but not for your qualification. Your company alone needs to stand alone on your qualifications. Next question. Hello, did we lose somebody? Hello?
We may have lost Brianna.
Oh, okay. So
Just
I
see
don't
if I
know.
can.
Okay.
Again, will a recording of this presentation be available to all attendees? Yes.
There's some hub questions here, Teresa, that I think we better answer them with the addendum.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to just address all?
I don't see any others that are. I think I've answered most of these questions.
Okay.
And a company that is not based in Texas can propose this RFO as long as you're registered to do business in Texas by the time negotiation comes up. And I did share the expenditure for previous contract is on the presentation and also in the pre-solicitation documentation and in the RFO document itself. The 3X on the file name is supposed to be your company letters. So if your company is called Market Leadership Investments, so it would be MI, MLI, or something to that effect. Next question. I think we answered most of them. I think we're good, Teresa.
Okay. I don't have a
Hello?
copy of the presentation.
Oh, we lost, but that's okay. There's only 2 slides left.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to get back on.
Okay. So after the questions, we have reminders. All the questions today are unofficial until posted. We will address every question that all 75 of them, plus the ones that are on the BidStamp portal. And it's always the vendor's responsibility to check the website for addendums. We will explain, one of the questions is the April 9th optional pre-proposal conference going to be the same as this one? No, it is not. We are going to address addendums at that time, plus a few reminders of this conference, but most of it will be about the addendums, okay? And then just remind you, March 27 is the deadline for questions. April 29 is the drop deadline for submitting your responses. And the BidStamp submit button, do not miss that one. And then the next slide is you all can contact me for any questions or any assistance you might need. And there is my name and my email address, which is also on the RFO document and in the website. And we are good to go. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Appreciate your attendance.